Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast. Forest are the penalty masters yet again. I'm your host, Greg Oram, along with my fellow Forest fanatic from across the Atlantic, Richard Spray.
5 kicks, a save or two from Wembley, both sides, Brighton and Forest, looking to book a place in the semi-final of the FA Cup. It's Elliot Anderson to open things up for Forest. Fans waving flags furiously behind their goalkeeper Verbruggen. Anderson just rolls it low into the corner and sends Verbruggen the wrong way. Fabulous penalty. Hudson-Odoi with a short run-up. Right-footed up against Verbruggen. Yes! It's found virtually the top corner. Hinshelwood for Brighton. Right-footed. Oh! Penalty. And it's saved by Sells.
Terrible penalty.
3 penalties each. Diego Gomez up against Matt Sells. Here's Gomez. Belts it down the middle straight at Sells, who makes the save.
Shocker.
Here's Milenkovic. Up comes the big serve.
Yes!
And plants it low into the corner. Beyond Bart Verbruggen. And who is striding forward but the captain, Ryan Yates. It's Ryan Yates for a place at Wembley. Right-footed.
Yes!
He's done it!
Get it, Yates!
Yates does it! Forest have done it! Forest are in the semi-final!
Oh, go on, Yates!
Ryan Yates runs all the way from one end of the pitch to the other, and he slides in front of the Forest supporters. It is they who will have their day in North London. Forest for the 3rd round in a row.
Just wanted to relive it again. I wanted to just take us through it at the start, just to relive it again. Richard, how you doing, mate?
Oh, goodness gracious, man. I mean, firstly, I didn't expect anything from Twilight, the soundtrack, to be on this podcast today, but I actually, that was absolutely beautiful, man. That was so well orchestrated because it was just such an exhilarating moment, wasn't it? It's just so excruciating every second before that. And then leading up to that, that Yates moment, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but yeah, it was just such a beautiful thing to see him. So excited. Culmination of many years of commitment, right? Just released in that very second.
23 years outside of the top flight and not a lot to shout about meant life as a Nottingham Forest fan was pretty dismal. The Club of Miracles had seemingly seen its final resurrection long ago, and days in the sun were definitely for fans of other teams. But then the magic dust fell again on the city of rebels, and in the space of just a few seasons, Forest have come out of nowhere to get promoted back to the Premier League, winning the playoff final at Wembley, going on a fabulous cup run as a championship side, only to be knocked out at the quarter-final stage by Liverpool. We reached the semi-final of the League Cup. We've maintained their top-flight status twice against all the odds and now sit strongly in 3rd place in the Premier League table on the edge of the Champions League. And following another penalty shootout thriller, we'll now travel to Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final, where they will be playing the reigning champions of England, Manchester City, for a place in the FA Cup final. We're going to chat all about the key moments from the win at Brighton, and with the next Premier League game just 48 hours away, we will cast an eye on the visit of Manchester United to Trentside on Tuesday night. We're here with Andrew Cove, Statman Danscape, and of course our resident Force ghost, Raf the Random Pundit.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
It's a trap! It's a trap! It's a trap! It's a trap!
Most impressive.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's nice to have a strong panel with us tonight. The force definitely seems to be strong in all of you. Andrew, welcome back to Talking Reds. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Still recovering a bit from yesterday, as I'm sure we all are. I ventured down to Chicago to watch the game at the embassy with some fellow Reds. A little bit worse for wear. Not that I was drinking because I was driving, but it's quite a day. I also took in the Chicago Fire game in the evening, so it was an endeavour to say the least, but worth every second of it. I mean, what a game!
You did, yeah, and you. There's a picture on the screen of you and the Chicago guys getting together for your meetup. So well done to all of you. It's always great to see pictures of associations and fan groups, wherever they may be, getting together for that one. So well done to you there. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Danscape, you all right, my man? How are you feeling?
Yeah, great. To be honest, still buzzing from it all. I think I didn't expect it to be quite so emotional and involving as a game. I thought it would be decided a bit earlier than it was. So it was great though. Excellent.
And Raf, our Force Ghost, in the fish tank. One or two comments think that Raf looks like he's in the fish tank, but no, he really is a Force Ghost. How you doing, sir?
Oh, good. Like I said to you guys, I think I've glued my nerves back together again. I really don't enjoy penalties whatsoever. Although we do seem to be rather good at them. So it does get slightly easier each time, but still, put through the ringer. But the elation and just dining off the endorphins and everything else as well right now.
Absolutely. Don't forget to get involved in the comments. Let us know you're here. I know that already we have Brucey with us. Says best intro ever. Thanks, Brucey. We love you too. And if you're listening later on Apple or Spotify and so on, we thank you for being with us. We always like to get instant reactions and bottle them after big moments. And our good friend over from the US, Barstool Chief, had this to say straight after the Forest win yesterday.
We've done it again. Nottingham Forest going back to Wembley, FA Cup semi-final. Who would have thought of this season as a dream? Ryan Yates from the spot. He's one of our own. No Chris Wood, no problem. Forest away, automatic W. Just keep this rolling. I love this team. You Reds, let's go.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, Andrew, let's just kind of rewind all the way then. We are going to spend the first part of this pod just talking about the Brighton game. We're going to move on to Man United after the break a bit later on. So let's focus on the team news that came out. Kind of broke. Rumours were kind of going around Twitter and various WhatsApp groups and people finding out that we probably weren't going to be starting with Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga. Were you surprised when you heard the team news officially drop just before kickoff?
Not really. I mean, we've seen this before, and we know how Nuno likes to protect the squad and protect the legs and the minutes, and we've also got a big game coming up on the Tuesday. I like the fact that you're almost anticipating extra time and a long game. So, and I said this on the way down to Chicago yesterday. If you started Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi and the game went to extra time, which it very, very conceivably could have, you're left in a position there where you have to take them off at some point or risk them burning out and then that being an impact on the Tuesday game. So by leaving them on the bench, bring them on after 50, 60, 70 minutes, whatever point in the game you feel is necessary. If they then still have to play extra time, you've got that impact off the bench. So as long as you're in the game, there's value there in bringing them on. And you're also protecting minutes. So I was absolutely fine with him putting those on the bench. And it proved the right thing to do as well. You saw the impact they made. We looked a better team once those two guys appeared on the pitch.
Yeah, I think it's a case of trusting Nuno, surely, Danscape, because he knows what he's doing. Yeah, listen, we've had a few bumps along the road, and we've had our backsides handed to us away at Bournemouth, for example. But it just struck me that there's a certain Mr. Rooney sat in the BBC studio, and his reaction to the team news was just ridiculous. I thought when he said that if I was a Nottingham Forest fan, I'd be fuming, and it spoke to me that this guy who's tried to be a manager clearly kind of showed that he hasn't really got the credentials. The idea that might just know what he's doing didn't seem to dawn on him. Do you think that he'll get a job in management again?
Well, no, I doubt that, definitely. Well, he probably will, but God knows why. I think, it's like he didn't know anything about Forest and the squad. The players we were bringing in weren't like academy players, were they? You're bringing in Danilo, who's a 15-20 million pound player. So it's not any kind of disrespect to the competition at all. It was about managing the minutes, and it was smart, but it was also about dealing with the threat of Brighton and trying to look at what they did to us last time we went there, where they did kind of dominate the game in in a lot of ways. We didn't manage to create a lot. And I think what surprised me, into the game is how much Brighton actually sat off us. So I think we probably could have got away with the more attacking lineup, but in terms of the overall minutes and managing that game, why not bring Danilo into the squad? Almost surprised that you didn't see someone, Sangari potentially come on and take up some minutes as well. But I had no concerns when I saw the lineup. I just thought it's a game plan.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that Nico Dominguez starting for me was a given. The way that he's been playing lately and the way that he has been a bit of a protector in the midfield, it felt like he had to play. And Raf, you've talked about both on air and off air about the going back to basics aspect of Forest season so far, and we saw that again evidently on Saturday, didn't we?
Yeah, we got kind of two elements of the basics, our kind of foundations, which was just get our defence set again. And we've gone back to getting clean sheets, which is so pleasing. And it's really that important as well. And we'll get on to Wood in a bit. But the defence has now got to now step back up to the plate and get those clean sheets back and working. The second bit was the strategy that got us into third of when we were going away to the top half of the league and going to away games. And we never played both wingers from the start. It wasn't a thing that we did. We probably played one at best and sometimes none. I mean, the famous Liverpool win, that we started with neither of Callum or Anthony Alanga at that juncture, and we still came away with the win. So it was really good to go back to the basics of, right, how do we do this? So it was really pleasing. Shut down the Brighton engine in midfield, dominate midfield, cut them off at the legs, and we saw that, and we were the better team for it as well. We just, and this is the balance. Did we have enough going forward? And that's when you just go, would you maybe have played one of the wingers as a better out? But we'll get on to that in a bit.
So, Richard, we knew that Chris Wood wasn't going to start this game, and it was probably going to be Taiwo coming in, and that's exactly how it happened. What we now know, following the game with Nuno's interview, is that it doesn't look quite as good as we thought it was going to be. We don't know for definite, but Nuno didn't look very happy. I mean, Colin Frey asked him the question. Nuno gave quite a long pause, and this was to do with how Wood is progressing. And he looked like he'd basically received the worst news possible. He said something on the lines of, it's not good news. We hope to have him back. Do you think that means effectively that Wood's out for the season? And if that is the case, how much faith have you got in Taiwo Awoniyi following yesterday's performance?
I'll answer the second part first. So I think that Taiwo showed yesterday the kind of movement and physicality that we're used to seeing from him. He looked a little bit pacier. I mean, he had those moments, where he got the ball at his feet and it looked a little bit clunky. I mean, we all know he's not the most fluid, like aesthetically pleasing striker in terms of his movement, but he's definitely looks to me as though his body has responded and has gotten back to, I mean, I'm not a physiologist, I'm not a physician by any means, but it looks like it's getting back to what we were used to in that first year in the Premier League. So that can only help us, because we see, I mean, the guy can be a very effective striker. I think that second half of the first season, he was one of the best strikers in the league. So it's in him to do those things. Will he do it consistently? I don't know that, but I'm definitely more confident. It's the after him, because we know his propensity to get injured, that worries me, because now we're having to have contingency plans that incorporate wingers. Now I think Jota can do the job. I think Anthony Lang can do the job, but is that really what we're going to want to have closing out the season, playing in that 9 position? Probably not, because it's not the way our team is technically structured to play that way. But at the same time, we know Nuno's his ability to adapt both in game and with each passing week, he'll come up with something to help provide some coverage and some structural support there. But in terms of Wood, my first thought when I heard him say it was immediately what you just said, was like, this could mean that he may not come back. Could it be one of those maybe it's not a fracture or some sort of like broken bone scenario. Maybe it's more of a muscular thing. And so those kinds of things sometimes can be very tenuous because it's all dependent on how the body responds to like rehabilitation or other types of interventions they're doing. So it'll be interesting to see, to hear a little bit more about that if we do get more information. It certainly doesn't seem like we know he won't be playing against Manchester United. That seems obvious. How many weeks past that, I don't know, because it was kind of like that with Sangari at times too, right? Where you had these, you think he was coming back, but then he'd have a setback, or I mean, it was just kind of like one of these things where you kind of had to play it week by week. I'm sure there's a timeline that they've already developed based off of what the scans have shown, but until we know otherwise. But I don't know if it's a full season, but it may take up. I mean, goodness, we've only got 9 games left, so there's not that many weeks left. So that would be really unfortunate, because that takes a huge weapon out of our arsenal to continue to progress up the table or you hope to catch Arsenal and certainly stay in that Champions League positioning. But I'm confident that other players will step up. But not having him on the pitch it's going to be detrimental no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like I've ruled him out now in my head, just so that I can cope. I've ruled him out. I'm like, that's it. We're not going to see him back, because we've seen it too many times, haven't we? With players getting injured. I mean, we're trying to guess when they're coming back, and it ends up being worse than we thought. It's happened with Sangare. It happened with, I think, Taiwo on one of his injuries, and it ends up being that you're kind of waiting for never to happen. So in my head, I'm thinking we're going to be without him for the rest of the season. It looked to me, Andrew, that maybe Nuno doesn't trust in Taiwo as much as we would think, or we would want him to, because when he made the changes, when Hudson-Odoi was coming on with Elanga, I expected it to be them both coming on into wing positions. I was a bit surprised that he was taking Taiwo off for the 60 minutes for Elanga, with Elanga to go through the middle. And we know that obviously Anthony has benefited from occupying that area, certainly against Ipswich. And then he was kind of overloading on the left a bit more. But in that game, he was coming in from a right-hand side as the winger. We had the central striker. So, and Elanga had a moment when he was put through by Morgan Gibbs-White yesterday, to latch onto the ball. He showed his speed. So is Elanga possibly going to be the key player here in that central striker area, do you think?
I think so, and I think you touched on why he was brought on for Taiwo at that point. So again, I mentioned earlier, you have a game coming up thick and fast on Tuesday. Taiwo's not played many minutes this season, so you have to kind of manage his fitness levels as well. If Wood is out for the medium or long term, then you've got to keep an eye on that as well. So bringing Anthony on and playing him in that number 9 role, it's a good tactical move in the context of the game anyway, because you've now got fresh legs, you've got pace. Brighton are going to be pushing for it, so there's going to be space in behind, as proved with that one chance that he was given. But also, it sets you up to know what to expect going forward for the rest of the season. So if Chris Wood is out, you're going to need to have some other solutions. So I was fine with it. I thought it was smart by Nuno. I thought Callum coming on at the same time, it gave us that dynamic. And I think you find that the front three at Forest typically are very dynamic anyway, even with like the number 9 role on the 3 that sit behind. How now recently have we seen, Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi both bombing down the same side of the pitch, because they're given license to move, across that whole line from left to right and vice versa. So I think it's fun. I think with the fitness levels and the pace and Nuno's tactics, I think we've got so many options. It's not just a player in the number 9 role or a player on the wings. I think they're so dynamic and fluid that it's not as black and white as just playing someone in a specific position. So we trust the process. We're here for a reason, and Nuno's got it right, up till this point. So you kind of have to trust the process.
I think so. And in that first half, Dan, I think you touched on it. I felt we were the better team, not just the first half, but over the whole 90 minutes. But focusing on that first half, we were definitely in control of the midfield area. But at the same time, it felt like we had the control, we had the ball, but we didn't have the outlets. And a winger would have certainly helped us with that. But it felt like the game plan was to switch to that in the second half, and he did that on 60 minutes. So we still left ourselves plenty of time with that option. So how worried were you that we weren't able to score a goal in not just 90 minutes, but with extra time as well?
Yeah, I suppose not too concerned in that particular type of game. Being a cup game, being a little bit nervy. We didn't fully commit at any point, I don't think. We definitely probed in that first half. Like I say, I think we were surprised by how much Brighton sat off us. And we sort of didn't expect that. So we sort of, we were trying to edge our way forward and play those balls into the channels, which I thought, Taiwo got onto the end of a couple, Danilo, Nico Williams was bombing on a lot. On the right-hand side, we did lack a bit of cohesion. Nico Dominguez is not known for taking players on and being able to get behind them and that sort of stuff. So we didn't really have that outlet on the right-hand side, which is where the problem was, I think. On the left, we did create a few opportunities. And like I say, Taiwo ran the channels and things well. So we half chances. Taiwo's shot in the first half was a good shot, really clean strike. And there was another couple of scrappy opportunities in that first half. Then second half, as the game went on deeper, like you say, Elanga showed his pace a few times, and that seemed like we might just get something out of it that way. I suppose in the long run, like you guys, I'm just concerned that Taiwo probably can't do 90 minutes in any game, so you're going to have that plan B. And I thought Elanga showed a lot, but it depends whether you can. I suppose it depends whether you can play that style where you can keep the ball on the floor to get it ahead of him for him to chase onto. If you have to resort to any lumping it forward, then we are going to be in trouble of how we can find a way to really hold on to it, I think.
So I suppose the main talking point, Raf, really, let's go straight to it, was the Anderson penalty incident. I suppose the question is, was that a penalty? Should it have been overturned by VAR?
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but
for
me,
we need to go over it. I will angle myself to talk about it.
You break it into two parts, right? The first is, was it a foul in the first place? And I think if the penalty is given, it's a soft one, but for me, it is a penalty because has Matoma impeded Anderson? Yes, he's taken his legs out. Yes, it's with his elbow rather than his foot, but at the same time, that's what probably makes it a bit weird. But at the same time, a foul's a foul. What really irks me though is VAR overstepping its mark. It stepped in to do something it was not designed to do. It is supposed to correct obvious errors, and if you're sent to a screen, that is not an obvious error because he's given the penalty and the leg has been hooked. It's then a bit subjective as to the softness of which do you or do you not, but you could argue it from both sides.
He called it on the review. Sorry, he said no foul was committed.
Yeah,
he said
which is just rubbish because.
But it was the ref making that decision, though, if you know what I mean, not VAR.
But it had to be the ref making the decision. It can't be VAR making the decision. The VAR recommends a review.
Yeah,
it should never. VAR shouldn't intervene to send him to the monitor unless there was clearly something obviously wrong the referee has done. And if you look at that, his leg has been hooked.
The ref must have thought that he did make an error. You know what I mean? It's kind of like he could have still stuck with that decision if he thought it was a foul. It's a weird scenario.
This is it. We've said this time and time again. If the referee gets sent to the screen, he's got to have the bollocks to say, well, I'm looking at it for a second time and I'm going to stick with my on-field decision. I mean, I'm all in favour of referees being asked to go to the screen if the VAR thinks, look, I think you might want to have a second look at this. I haven't got a problem with that. But and I haven't got a problem with the fact that it's the referee making the decision. I guess
it's what VAR's for, though. VAR should only intervene if there has been a massive error, basically, by the referee.
Yeah, no, you're right.
If they're sent to the screen, they have made an error, and the assumption is they will do the opposite thing. So it's not blow your mind that 99% of the time when they go to the screen, it's overturned. But that's my issue with what happened yesterday. It wasn't a blatant error. And that's my issue. So when he goes to the screen, he's then going, well, they've seen a million angles upstairs. So evidently, and they are my fellow referees that that is my community that I'm with. So I'm putting trust in them that they've seen something that I evidently have. So they just flash on screen a few things, but in their brain, they're going, they've got all the bells and whistles upstairs and they've called me to the screen because they evidently don't think that I've made the right call.
No, and the frustrating thing is that it's so inconsistent, and there'll be a situation probably at some point soon that's very, very similar, and the penalty will be given and the penalty will stand and it won't be overturned.
Yeah,
so
it's the people, not the system, right? It's not the technology, it's the people, and people are inconsistent, and that's the issue with VAR.
We were the better team, Richard. I felt it only started to look like Brighton might have something in extra time, really. I mean, that's when you get tired legs, you get fatigue. And we were relying again on our fantastic goalkeeper to pull out yet another amazing save. I mean, it makes me laugh because we've spoken about the goalkeeper situation quite a bit, and there are people out there who have written Sells off, and there are certain people in certain places that all they ever did was just talk about how bad Matt Sells was, and it just made me laugh time and time again, thinking this guy is a good goalkeeper. Give Matt Sells a chance, and this season has just been magnificent, hasn't he?
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we talk about inconsistency of VAR. He's about one of the most consistent things you'll see on the pitch for Forest. So I likened it in our WhatsApp chat at one point. I mean, it's a very different conversation because we're talking about a striker compared to a goalkeeper, but the way that he's sort of stepped up this season and he's attacked the ball a little bit more in the box. He still isn't, it's not his strength really, right? He tends to play on his line more like we've discussed, but like Wood though, there was this perception of him, like we need to get better. Like that guy's not the guy we need to rely upon. Right. In that sense, that's where the comparison in my head goes in terms of Wood. Wood's had a proven track record of playing really well. At intervals in his career, but for Sells to have this kind of performance level at what is he, 30? Is he 32 or 33 years old? He's about the same age, right? He's a little bit older. And so for him to ascend like this and be probably one of the best keepers in the league week in and week out. But to your point, when we need him the most is when he seems to show up. And there was clearly, I mean, that was a perfect header. And I don't know if it was it Baliba? I'm trying to remember who it was, or Gomez. It was Gomez. I mean, it was absolutely picture perfect. And yeah, he just barely got his fingers on that thing, which is just an absolutely incredible save, bar none. I mean, it's just, yeah. I don't know what other superlatives, what other adjectives, what other things we can give the guy, because he's just been in a situation where we have these tight games. He seems to find his something in himself, and he steps up to make sure that we keep it that way. And then obviously during the course of the penalties as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I mean, first one was just a bad penalty, but the second one was brilliant. And he was close to a number of them too. I mean, he was guessing right on the majority of the time. So yeah, he's just a phenomenal player, and I'm so glad we have him, because in my head right now I'm going, yeah, he's a little bit older. Yes, at some point we need to have a secondary plan as we move forward. Is that Miguel? I don't know. It could be somebody else, but I'm not worried about having to upgrade him at this stage. Like when I think about what money I want allocated, where I want our recruiting to go, that's not the position I tend to stress about at this stage.
We've talked a lot about how shallow we are in terms of squad depth with our striker, that now Wood's out, we're all like deeply concerned that Awoniyi might not be exactly what we need. We've not talked about the goalkeeper. If Matt Sells was to get injured, I wouldn't say we'd be completely screwed, but the effect that would have on the team and how well we operate as a unit would be incredibly devastating. So, and I think that's not been said enough, how good and how impactful and how incredibly integral he is to how good we've been this season. He's 33 years old as well. I did just look it up. So yeah, he's right in the prime for a goalkeeper. That's when they're at their absolute peak.
Just getting a little bit of interference on your mic there, Andrew. If you can just tweak that, something's coming out. But I would say that goalkeepers think get better with age. I've always thought goalkeepers get better with age. But the penalties, I mean, we have become the penalty masters. I mean, we lost the penalty shootout against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, but we think we've won every other penalty shootout known to man. I think there was one about 50 years ago. But the curious thing is, of course, is Morgan Gibbs-White gets taken off Danscape to 2 minutes from the end. And he's not someone I'm a big fan of on penalties, to be fair, but he's never missed one for Forest. And there's no Wood playing. So your number one penalty taker and then your number two penalty taker aren't on the pitch. Did you find that a little bit weird as well? Was it just me?
It worried me, but then afterwards you hear that he picked up a knock, hadn't he? So, I think he took him off because he was hobbling around a little bit. So as ever with Nuno, there's a reason. He's not just making completely random choices. So yeah, it was a bit strange, but then obviously it led to the beautiful moment of the person who took the fifth penalty that sealed the deal, which might not have happened if Gibbs-White was still on the pitch. So all these things work out in the end. Just on Sells quickly, if you think about it, his last game where we questioned his performance was that Brighton away one, when the free kick went in, and there's a couple of it, and so again, that's another nice poetic way of go back to Brighton, and he puts in that performance.
On the pens then, Raf. So, I mean, look, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elliot Anderson, very cultured, very, very strong. A miss from Nico, which, he's been very good on penalties, unfortunately. He misses this one. At any point were you worried? I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I was fairly calm. I still felt we'd win, and again, it's easy to say this now, but I definitely, when the match started, looked at Hinshelwood and thought, there's going to be a moment with Hinshelwood in this match, because he's been the player in the last 2 games against Brighton that's had moments. He scored a really good header against us in that match you just referenced, Dan. Away 2-2. He got the first goal, really good header. And then, of course, in the 7-0 win, he was the player that was left stranded in midfield all by himself and got hooked at half time. So, he kind of had moments in both those games. So I thought to myself, I kind of feel like there's going to be something with Hinshelwood in this game. And lo and behold, Raf, he was the one that stepped up and missed their first penalty. Yeah, it wasn't a great penalty, but Sells has still got to save it, hasn't he?
Yeah, so that's kind of a bit of a composite set of questions embedded in all of that, but I'll try and pick them out. Right, yeah. So penalties came along, and how did I feel about them? I'm always nervous for penalties because you really care. You're so invested. It'd be inhuman not to be nervous to some degree. It's just I'm quite a nervous Nelly when it comes to these types of things. So actually, I'm a absolute bag of nerves. But because of how we have dealt with penalties, and I guess it's just the rinse repeat aspect of it, I always feel Sells is going to save one of the 5, right? And with the way that we're taking penalties, you would bank 50-50 we're going to score all 5 of ours as well. So odds on, we're probably going to win the penalty shootout. And at that juncture, your nerves get even better when Sells is the first one to make a save rather than we've missed one as well. So at that juncture, as soon as the first one was saved, I thought, right, cool, we're pretty much done here. And even when Nico missed, and I really, really hope he gets put on penalties as soon as the opportunity comes again, because his penalties have been some of the best that we have struck up until this point as well. So, and the fact that he's not going to be able to play in the semi-final as well, is I just hope the fact that he mentally is looked after and just that's flushed out of the system really quickly. But still, I'm not worried. Milenkovic comes up. I'm not worried the fact that he's not going to score.
So calm.
I mean, the guy has ice in his veins. It's unbelievable. And so it's just at that point. And yeah, Sells is evidently, and he talks about it is science behind what he does to a certain degree. And just the team I know work really hard. And we practice penalties, it seems, whenever the team are talking about it, a lot in training as well. So this isn't a fluke that we're this good at them. And that just actually fills me with a bit of confidence. I could be nervous. I'm not as nervous as I would be if it wasn't Forest and how good we are at them. So I did feel like we would come out okay. Hinshelwood, I think I messaged you guys just as he was, I said, look, it's destiny. Hinshelwood got hooked at half time. This guy's had a shocker against us in recent past. He's not going to score. He didn't. Then the commentator's curse came down on Nico hard as he was stepping up to take his penalty. So thanks so much to those sets of commentators. But still, at the end of the day, it's the Sells show. And I'm really, really happy about that because goalkeepers never really get the praise. And he saved us in extra time with that save and came up with 2 stops. And the second one, it didn't actually go straight at him. It was slightly to the side.
That's a pretty Samba moment, wasn't it?
Absolutely hammered at him as well. You could get a hand on that and that could break your wrist and just go straight through. So you really, really, it was reflexes and really good save as well.
Yeah, it was. It reminded me of Brice Samba in the Sheffield United penalties playoffs. And if goalkeepers are going to get praise, it is in the penalty shootout. It's the hero moment. But, Hinshelwood puts it to that side, but Sells decides to go the other way, and Hinshelwood scores. Like I said, you still got to save them, no matter how poor the penalty turns out to be. And he nearly got to Dunk. So, I mean, fair play to Dunk. I thought Dunk was going to sky it, but he came up and he put his in the corner quite well, to be fair to him. But then Richard, of course, it could only be one man, couldn't it? It could only be one man. And I thought it might be a Langer. I thought maybe Jota Silva. But no, when on the screen, we saw the skipper walking up, I was like, oh, shit. I must admit, I thought, please don't be the moment where, all those Ryan Yates haters will have something to feast on for years to come. I wanted it so badly for him. And it was just poetic, wasn't it, Rich?
Poetic for sure. And just like he does with everything else, when it comes to the haters, he proves them wrong. Because even the commentators, at least on the side in the States, were like, "Oh, Ryan." It was kind of like they were not anticipating that to be the guy stepping up. But yeah, I mean, who else could that be? And I'm thinking about who was available, because Alanga was still available, right? I mean, there was other options available, but it just felt like if we're going to have the guy taking the last penalty kick for us to move us into a semifinals that we haven't been in since 1991, who's better to do so than Mr. Forrest himself, the only guy left, right, who's been able to progress through every league. I think he scored in every league in England, right? I mean, it's just, the guy he's just absolutely incredible, and the joy on his face was just worth every second of that we had to endure leading up to that moment. It was just worth every second, and I'm so proud of him as a player, as a person, because he's just a brilliant guy too. So yeah, you're 100% right. The story cannot be written if it's not like that, if it's not Ryan Yates, and we need that. Just the kind of season we've had, the way that he's impacted the season as well, when he's stepped up when others have been injured, like Morgan being out for a period of time, Anderson been out for a period of time, and Ryan Yates has stepped up and played his role to perfection, and continues to be that captain of the team like he is. He fulfills that role, in such a beautiful way.
He was the eldest of everyone left to.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Possibly actually step up
at only 26 years old.
Exactly, that's the bonkers thing. But you go through everyone else. He ignore Sal's. He's by far the eldest.
One thing I wanted to convey in my intro today was how much we seem to have achieved since we've, since the miracle of getting promotion. It hasn't just been getting promoted and then we've just been a flat pancake. There's been so much to shout about that. If there was ever a TV drama to be made about a football team, then there's look no further than Nottingham Forest, because there has been drama after drama of promotion, of staying up by the skin of our teeth, the off-field antics, the points deduction, the big Greek owner with the money and the amount of players coming in, and the cup runs and the Steve Coopers and the Nunos and the fans. I mean, it's just been absolutely glorious. But you were right, Richard. 1991 was the last time we got to an FA Cup semi. Of course, we got to the final. And Andrew, you were there, weren't you? And there's the picture of you on the left on screen. I think I've got that tracksuit top, and I've got the next one along upstairs still hanging up. But there's a picture of you, Andrew, at the Cup at Wembley, and also a picture of Tyler with the club captain, the penalty maestro Ryan Yates as well. Tell us about that cup. Was that the semi-final there? Or was that the final? Beg your pardon.
That was the final.
It wouldn't have been the semi-final, because back in the day we weren't at the semi-final when Wembley. That was the final, of course. So it
was at Villa Park when we beat West Ham 4-0. Tony Gale was sent off for a professional foul on Gary Crosby, I think it was. West Ham fans did not stop singing all game. I was there at that game as well. It was an incredible day. I did look through the archives, and I did manage to pull out, for those that are watching on the stream, my old FA Cup final ticket as well from the first game. So the Yates story, just real quickly. So it was a year ago today that Tyler went to his last game that he's seen. So that was against Crystal Palace. The club were very kind. They let Tyler go to the pre-match stuff to meet the players and all that kind of stuff. We went pitch side for Mull of Kintyre. They put this nice little content piece together. Incredible memories. And to your point, like, it's nice to do it anytime. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to do that a few times. But now, especially with where the club is, and like you say, the trajectory that we've had over the past few seasons, to be a part of that and to witness it firsthand. And again, for me on a personal note, to do that with Tyler, it's incredible. And we talk about it so often. And I don't think we should ever get tired of talking about just how incredible these times are. We're going to look back in like 10, 15, 20 years time on this. And this is like a golden era, genuinely is a golden era, because no one saw this coming. No one could have predicted that this was going to happen. So we just have to enjoy it. If we get knocked out in the semi-finals, let's hope we don't. But if we do, it's still a phenomenal achievement. If we don't finish in the top 5, but we still make the Europas, it's still a phenomenal achievement. So, and yeah, it's an incredible moment, incredible time to be a Forest fan.
It is indeed. Okay, guys, we've been drawn against Man City in the semi-final. They've beaten Bournemouth this afternoon 2-1. We're going to move on, but before we do, in a nutshell, Forest, Palace, Aston Villa, and Man City left. Are Forest going to win the FA Cup? Have Forest got their name on the trophy? Yes or no? Andrew Cove?
Yes.
Danscape?
Crikey. Crikey. It's tough. But then, if it's not hard, it's not fun, as my old PE teacher used to say for some reason. We've got to beat the best teams, haven't we? So, yes, we can do it.
Raf?
Sorry to be the realist. No, because after seeing what Man City did today, coming from behind, the Man City of old are really starting to get their SHIT together slightly, and Pep's head's back in managerial mode of problem solving. So I think it's one step too far to get past them at Wembley, where their season, they walk out into Wembley, it's like being at home. They're there so often. I just don't see us getting past them, unfortunately.
Richard Spray?
I was going to join Raf in that sort of headspace, but I'm going to go Greg Orham, Greg Mitchell. You're optimists, and I'm gonna go. I think we can do it. I just, there's something about this run of that we've had this season that just feels like that kind of thing is going to happen. That we're going to finish in the top 5. That we're going to win the FA Cup. I don't know what it is. It just feels like there's something ethereal going on that's intervening on our behalf here. And so I'm going to say yes. I say we win it. I say we exercise those demons of 91, because I hated watching that match at home when I actually had the flu. I was supposed to go with my granddad and ended up with the flu and couldn't go. So in hindsight, it probably would have been devastating, train ride home. But yeah, I'm going to say we win it.
Well, I say, sorry to be the realist, but yes, we can win it and we will win it, because the realist in me looks at the realist in Forest this season and the team that they are, not the team that they were. And they can beat anybody. And they've already beaten Man City. And that size pitch will be no problem. The City Ground is the biggest pitch in the league. And I think we've got their number. I think the way that Nuno sets up, it won't be easy. It won't be a walkover. But I'd rather play Man City than play Bournemouth, because I think Bournemouth are the team that we just don't seem to have, or never have seemed to, being able to undo. And I think Man City are a team that we can and will beat. And I think our name is on the cup. I believe in the magic of the FA Cup. And this is the season where everything is coming together. I said it all the way back, didn't I? When people were saying, would you rather win the FA Cup or would you rather get in the Champions League? And I said, we can do both, and we'll do both. And we are going to do both. So you heard it here, not for the first time, Forest are going to win the FA Cup. Stick down your pipe and smoke it, people. All right. Okay. Forest women could only draw 1-1 at home today to Hull. There was a late Hull equaliser. So it finished 1-1. Wolves got a win over Burnley. That now means that Wolves are level on points with Forest on 49 points. Forest, however, have still got a game in hand. So Wolves have played 20 games. There's 2 more to play. Forest have got 3 more games. They've got a far superior goal difference, still in the driving seat. You would have thought perhaps at home to Hull that should have been 3 points. But hey, they've just won the cup last week. It's never going to be plain sailing. I still believe that it won't just be Forest lifting the FA Cup. It will be the women getting promoted as well as lifting the cup they did last week. Okay, we're going to move on and talk about Man United now, because we want to focus on the Premier League. The cup is parked for 4 weeks, and all the information on tickets and the dates and the times will come out, and everyone will be looking at social media. But the most important aspect in Forest's life in the next 48 hours is the trip of Manchester United. They're coming to the City Ground for an 8 p.m. kickoff on Tuesday night. Richard, are we expecting a full-strength team on this one? Wingers back in for this one, do you think?
For sure. Yeah. Well, hopefully Ty will be able to give us more than 60. But yeah, I think everything else pretty much stays as we anticipate. It'd be interesting to see if he considers moving Ryan Yates in to kind of create a little bit of problems for Bruno Fernandes and others in that midfield area. But yeah, I think it's pretty much going back to what we're used to, because they certainly got some deficiencies, and they've certainly been paying a little bit better, but not to the level that, most would expect Manchester United and the kind of money they spend to play.
So let's get the foot mob on the screen. Give me a moment and I will pull my finger out and get it working. Are you thinking then that we're going to see an Anderson Dominguez midfield partnership, or are you expecting Yates to come into his own more now?
Yeah, I think it's Dominguez. I just think the way that he's played recently, and you've got a very pacey guy on the left hand side. I mean, obviously, Heineken he neutralized Matoma quite well yesterday, along with support and help from Dominguez from more of a wing position. But I think we can see something. Yeah, obviously flip Wood and Taiwo, but everything else to me stays the same.
So on the screen, for those who can't see it, I've got the back five that everyone knows: Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, Aina, Sells in goal, Anderson, Dominguez in the midfield, and then of course the front four now features a Wanley as the focal point, with Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, Alanga. Andrew, are you expecting anything different? Perhaps. I mean, can you make a case for Danilo? Can you make a case for Yates? Has Sangare's Forest career now finally had the last nail in its coffin? Do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think the way that the team's been playing with that set of players, that 11, subbing out Awoniyi for Chris Wood, obviously because of the injury, it makes perfect sense to just keep the tried and tested formula. There's no reason not to. I think you have to keep Anderson in there. I don't see any reason to take Anderson out. And to the point that was made earlier, Dominguez, the form that Dominguez is in, I think if you looked at our squad of central midfielders and you said to me, 2 months ago, that Dominguez would be the consistent choice in the midfield, at this point in the season, we'd probably laughed at it, but he's there on merit. He's earned it. He fulfills a very, very critical role in that team. He is the energy. He's, like I said, the disruptor. He's what Ryan Yates is in the second half of the game if you need to bring him on. So no, I think that 11 works for me, and I think there's a lot of good quality in there that would keep us in the game and at least give us a chance to even take a victory off United.
I guess, Dan Escape, the question is one that we always ask about formation and shape is, might Nuno choose to go to the back three and bring in Morato? I'm hoping that we're going to see a little bit of Willy Bonny, because I've got a prediction that says that there's going to be a big Willy Bonny moment before the end of the season. I'm still hoping that might come to fruition. But what about formation and back three? Any chance of that, do you reckon, Dan?
No, I don't think there is, because we haven't got the options on wing back. I don't think it's not. If we'd seen Alanga or Hudson-Odoi play as a wing back, then potentially you'd flip it round just to give a rest to Aina and Williams, because I think they both did look tired. I thought perhaps part of the reason why Williams missed his penalty is because in that last 10 minutes he was looking really shot. He got run around a couple of times, and one of them gave away that yellow. So if there was a way of swapping those guys out and keeping the quality, I think we perhaps would. But I think if you go to a back three, they almost have to do more work, potentially. So it doesn't help in that way. So I think the shape will stay the same, but I think we could potentially drop a couple of players and beat Man United. Whereas I think if we go to Aston Villa, we need an absolutely full strength, fully fit and firing team. So if we were going to see any rotation in midfield, it would be for this game, so that you can save legs for that trip to Villa. And if there was ever a game, right, Sangare's issue is pace, isn't it? It's pace over 5 yards. That's his problem. But if there's ever a midfield that doesn't really have pace, they have some skill, but they don't really have pace, it's this Man United midfield. It's Fernandes and it's Eriksen, right? They're not quick players, but they're technically good. So if he was ever going to be able to do a job and just man mark Fernandes or sit on Eriksen, whoever plays, the furthest forward of them midfielders, it would be this game. So, as a road call, just to mix it up, because we all know what the best 11 is, maybe we'll see Sangare just come in and do a job for one game, just to rest. I mean, Anderson played that full game, and if he can do it, brilliant. But it wouldn't surprise me if he can't, do another 90 minutes just a couple of days later.
I've switched out those for Danilo and Sangare to come in, because was the starting partnership at the start of the season. I think they played in the Cup at Exeter, I think, if I remember rightly, and maybe another time. Raf, where are you at on shape? I mean, the back three has been used in different games for different reasons, and I think it's more of a 3-4-3, right? So you're looking at Aina and Williams being those up and down players. Can you see a back three, or do you think that's out the window now?
No, there's two rationales of why the back three might come in for this game. The first is Gibbs White did go firing into that upright quite heavily. It's only 2 and a bit days after that, and I genuinely don't know how bad that knock is, right? Having to take him off with 2 minutes until a penalty something's evidently not cushy about that situation. So he might not start. If he doesn't start, then there is a part of me which then goes, well, actually, does this suit then playing a back five? Because if you drop him out, unless you push Anderson up into the 10 and you put another midfielder in, but then you're moving players out from doing what they've naturally been doing. Now, can Anderson play 10? 100% he can. Has he played 10 all season? No. So why start asking players to do something that they haven't really done? Playing wing back or playing fullback, the fullbacks are basically being wing backs and bombing up and down anyway. So it's no real massive difference. The second reason we'll come on to in my segment, which is how Man United are going to line up. And if we did play basically a back five, we would then be matching up with how they're playing. And you know that I'm going to harp on about getting overrun in midfield. And there is a risk in this game that happens if we just play our normal 4-2-3-1, unless you effectively have Gibbs White, if he plays or not, and both Alanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi coming back into the midfield to make a five. So we're basically playing 4-5-1, and then they go where they need to go, which we have done, and it's possible.
I think there's a danger playing wing backs. When we mentioned it a second ago, that Williams and Diner both also played 120 minutes yesterday. And the wing back, it's not a cheap role. It taxes you on your fitness. Yeah. So, having that impact on those two, having to run the lines, track back, defend as a five when you don't have the ball, that might just be too much to ask of them in such a short space of time. So unless you're going to bring Moreno in, unless you're going to make some sort of fundamental change with the actual players at the back, I think there's a risk in 5-3-2 that you just gassed. You just had too much in too little time.
Moreno likes playing wing back, so it plays into that. And I don't know. And we'll come on to the threats they've got. They've only got one side that's a massive pacey threat at all, and that's just Garnacho down the left hand, down their left, our right. So if you've got Aina getting a bit more support with Dominguez like he normally does get, then actually you might be all right doing that. And also you've got the extra defender to then go over and help on that space. So I'm usually fearful for the gap that it leaves behind the two wing backs for wingers to get in behind there and get balls into our box. I'm just less fearful of that happening slightly with Man U.
I wonder now that we're entering the last 9 games of the season against teams that are in the lower half of the table. I know there's a Man United in there that are traditionally a great club, and we got them on Tuesday, and Spurs, who are kind of finding their feet a little bit in places. But I wonder if we might start to see just a little bit more of squad usage in games. That maybe a Moreno coming in. He's going to need to get some game time ahead of the semi-final. You would have thought, to put him in cold against Man City at Wembley, I'm expecting him to play with Nico being suspended. I wonder if we might see Sangare and Danilo getting used a little bit more in the midfield as we've been talking about. I don't think this game is going to be the back three. I think we will stick with the 4-2-3-1 because I think that will be enough against Man United, as Dan, you were saying. I think they're not a good Man United team. They still haven't managed to pull themselves together. I don't think they've got the players to do so. They've made some signings that I still think are very questionable. And I'm expecting us to get a win, but we'll come on to that just a little bit later on. What we'll do now, because time is moving on, we'll slip straight into this.
I'm a stat man. Fazendo som. Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som. Fazendo som. E Pedrinha Moraes fazendo som.
Okay, Dan, with the stat pack, what have you got for us, mate?
Yeah, just mainly a look at Man United's form, because I heard Chris Aylmer from the Forest All Over podcast was sort of worried that Man United are finding a bit of form. I think I can sort of see why we're thinking that, but then at the same time, looking into it a bit more, I'm not so sure they are. It's kind of like, they've gone from crap to a bit less crap, basically, is how I would see it. So this is the form table as going through the season. So there's the sort of form of both teams. So Forest to the red line, Man United the blue line, and you can see the managers' heads are kind of where Erik ten Hag left, and then where Ruben Amorim. That's after he's been there 6 games, because this form is an average over 6 games, and you can actually see that for most of his tenure they've been in worse form than they were under Ten Hag. The blue line is lower than it was when he got sacked. And yes, they've picked up in this recent period, but basically they've only got to the point of, their form at 1.4 points per game is our worst form over the entire season. So, their best form is our worst form this season. So yes, they've picked up a bit, but it's not kind of like to the extent whereby they're picking up a couple of points a game and putting teams to bed. And then if you go to the next one and look at who they've played as well. So on the left is the kind of the expected goals versus the actual form. So again, what this shows is that they're actually below this average line. So on this chart, if you're above the average line, your expected goals and your expected results are better than the actual results you've got. Whereas if you're below the line, you've kind of got away with one a bit, in terms of how the XG works. And you can see Man U are below that line. And so even though they have been picking up sort of 1.4 points per game, their expected goals would have had them only picking up less than a point per game. So their performances haven't been these sort of barnstorming wins or anything like that. They've kind of scraped through the games by taking their chances a bit more than they used to, I think. And teams missing their chances against them as well, having looked at some of the other numbers. So again, it's not, that suggests that they've got fortunate in their games. And then on the right is a chart of comparing the average league position of the opponent. So from bottom to top, the higher up that chart, the more difficult games you've had. So you can see Man United on average over the last 6 games have played teams in the top 4, which has made their games hard, but their form's still been kind of average from left to right. You can see Forest are in that top half. So Forest have been playing teams on average that are like about 7th, 8th position. And we've still got better form than Man United because we're further to the right. Man United's form is, mid on that chart going left to right, but they've actually had the 3rd easiest set of games in those last 6 games. So it's not like they've had difficult games and their form's picked up. It's picked up a little bit, but they've also had easy games. They played, Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton. That's where they've got their wins. So again, it all points to them still being a bit of a struggling side. Was there another one? Yeah, so this was just looking at, just the basics of how many goals they're scoring, how many goals they're conceding since Amorim's come in. And again, what's weird with Man United is that transition period between when you can see Ten Hag's face and Amorim's face. That was their best form of the season. They were actually doing really well. They were scoring a lot of goals on that chart. Since he's come in, they've just slipped back down to, they're only just about scoring a goal a game. And if you look at the red line for Forest, it's just, it keeps going up. We keep getting better and better at becoming a goal-scoring team, where that was a concern for us early in the season, is we're good defensively, but we're not getting the goals. And now you can see there's a massive gap between these two teams on goals scored. Goals against is a little bit different in that we have started conceding more in this last sort of set of games. Our red line's gone up, which we don't want. And this is where Man United have got a bit better, is that in terms of goals conceded, they've started to drop a bit. So they've gone from conceding like 2 goals a game when he first came in to now, getting towards conceding just a goal a game. But again, it's not brilliant form. They've not kind of suddenly become a brilliant defensive unit. They've just got a bit better. And I think that's partly because the teams have been playing haven't been that good and they've been missing their chances.
Okay, I think there was one more.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this one. Opposition chance quality. So behind the obvious numbers of goals and that, basically on the left, blue line going up is not good. Opposition chance quality, again, they're giving away more, higher quality chances to the opposition despite their form picking up, which is a good sign that, again, the performance behind the results isn't actually that strong. Ours has gone up a bit, but it's nowhere, again, there's a massive gap there between the chances, the quality of chances Man United are giving away and what Forest give away as a very solid defensive team. And you can see, this is what I'm saying, the opposition are missing those chances, because if you look at the chart on the right, if the line's going down, basically the opposition are leaving chances on the table. The opposition are leaving kind of like half a goal a game that they should be scoring that would turn those results from a Man United win to a draw and again drag their form back down. So everything points, underlying numbers, whatever you call it, everything points to the fact they're still a bit of a struggling side.
Excellent. Thank you, Dansko. Alrighty. Andrew, what are you expecting from this Man United team coming on Tuesday? The club carries a weight, I think, on the backs of the players. It's Man United after all. So is there an expectation on how they have to still approach games? And does that play into our hands a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think Manchester United, you said they're a reputation as a club, their fans, there's that expectation. I think that helps us. I really do. I think them still being a big club means that we still treat it as a big game. We got this concept when we were in the Championship and in League One that we were always every other team's cup final. Manchester United still have that feeling to me. Like you still want to beat Manchester United. So there may be games where you do put that little bit extra in, and games against Manchester United are one of those games. So I think to the point on the quality of players that they have, they are a beatable Manchester United, but they are still Manchester United. Like, I think we're very careful and very clever about not taking any team for granted, not underestimating any teams this season. And I think it'll be the same again on Tuesday. I think we'll go in knowing that if we stick to our game plan and we execute that game plan as well as we can, that we've got every chance of winning. The fact that it's against Manchester United just makes you concentrate that extra bit more because you want to beat teams like Manchester United because of who they are.
Richard, I know that you'll be keen to beat Manchester United again. Your brother Matt is a big Man U fan, and I know he's not been enjoying the season as much as we've been enjoying our season. So are you looking forward to getting one over on Man United again? Will you be on the phone to Matt to kind of rub it in a little bit?
Yeah, he already thinks they're crap anyway. So I don't know how much worse it can get. He's been a very unhappy chappy, like Raph likes to say, for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it would be a little bit enjoyable on my part too, because I've had to watch them be so good for so long, and then us watch from the sidelines and not even be able to make it into the Premier League while they're fielding some all-time great squads and so forth. And he's never been short of sharing that with me. So yeah, with it, he's due a little bit of gloating, I think. So yeah, but hopefully we put another performance like we did against the last match against them, and I won't even need to do it. He'll just throw himself on the sword and realize how terrible they are.
I mean,
for sure.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they've had a terrible season. They haven't been the same since Alex left, but they still managed to win trophies under Mourinho. They still managed to win trophies under Ten Hag as well. Yeah. And many will think they may still bounce back. So I take great glee from us matching up against them, against Liverpool this season, against Man City, because that's why I'm so confident in this team at the moment. Because as much as I'm so used to it being the Forest way that we shoot ourselves in the foot or something silly happens and oh god, typical Forest. It just feels like that's just now been moved out of the club, and we're in such a good place with this manager, with these players, with the system that he's employed, that when Man United come calling on Tuesday night, I feel like they are going to be under pressure to come and bring the game to Forest, and that just does play into our hands. We want teams to come and attack us. We play the low possession football that we all know, and so I certainly feel that's going to be a real bonus for us. But in order for us to kind of get a bit more of an idea about how Man United might approach this, let's have our scout report.
Send them back to East London! We send them back! I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off.
It's always difficult when we try and review and preview in the same pod, because time eventually does get away from us. And Raph, I'm not going to give you the most amount of time in the world to take us through what
we don't need that much time with Man U because they're quite predictable about what they're going to do. So
let's hear it.
Yeah, cool. So, right, what we've got here, as per usual, is having a look at the formation of the last 4 games. I ignore European games because you can do weird stuff with formations in European games. But these are the last 4 games. As you can see, there is consistency in them playing 5-2-2-1, as it were, with wing backs, or you can say it's 3-4-2-1, depending on if you classify Dallo and Mazraoui as wing backs or midfielders. It's very stable. You're going to have a Nara in goal. De Ligt and Lindelof are going to be 2 of the back 3. The issue they've got, both Yoro and Heaven are injured. Heaven's 50-50 to come back. He might actually play. Super young. He's like 17 or something as well. So it's a case of who do they actually have coming in. Very quickly, I know they moan about that they do have serious defensive issues from injuries. Martinez out. Maguire out, Evans out, Yoro now out, Shaw out, Heaven potentially out. So whoever the third person that comes in is probably going to be the weak link that we need to attack. Dallo might get dropped back into defence. I don't know, but they will. This is the thing we know about Amorim. He is a system person. It's like Maresca. This is my system. This is what I will play. So we know what they are going to play. So then you've got the wing backs, and it probably will be, as you can see, Dallo and Mazraoui, because it's been pretty consistent the last 3 games. You know Bruno's going to be in midfield, and this is the key. Like I always say, cut the engine out. If you take Bruno out of their team, they don't have a spark. He is the one that single-handedly has dragged them up by the bootstraps in the last 4 or 5 games to give them any form of impetus to get them draws or wins from absolutely nowhere and a flat first half, basically. So if we can shut down Bruno in midfield, that's a huge... I would say we win. If we neutralise Bruno, we win. Then you're going to have a look at, because also you've got Ahmad and Mainu, of which were their 2 brightest stars, they're young guns in midfield. They're both still injured and won't be back for this game unless a miracle happens. So you're probably going to get Ugarte, who's now fit again, partnering Bruno in midfield. Ugarte and Bruno, by the way, Bruno's weird in the fact that even though he's in midfield, he doesn't actually use the middle of the field that much. So he actually uses the sides quite a bit and drifts from side to side quite a lot, and then pops up around the D to cause absolute nightmare. So we just got to be aware of that. But Ugarte doesn't really go in the box. He's just a real midfield engine that just goes around kind of winning balls. That's probably going to be their midfield. Then you've got who's going to be up top. So it's going to be 2 behind a striker. The striker could be Højlund. They're persisting with him. He can't hit a barn door. But they probably will keep with him. It could be Xerxes switched in, but you're probably looking at consistency between Garnacho and Eriksen. Eriksen's not particularly mobile, and so that's why he's not a massive threat in terms of pace going at our back line. Garnacho is the one pacey issue that we've got. Whichever side, he's probably going to play on their right. So again, is it going to be Nico? Is it going to be Moreno? But they're probably going to have a job of nullifying Garnacho. That's pretty much it. You nullify Bruno, nullify Garnacho, and you're done. But just looking as well, crosses, they're 17th for the most amount of crosses coming to our box. So it's not like they're hitting the byline and pummeling loads of boxes in. So if we can get our blocks and get our lines in, then we're actually very well protected to try and open this up. It fits how we play really, 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 really well. And they're not great away from home. They've literally just beaten Leicester, Fulham, Southampton, and Man City, but Man City is just one of those random derbies where they'll just turn up because it's pride. Then it's Leicester and Southampton, and they randomly beat Fulham. That's of who they've managed to beat.
You said Bruno Fernandes, it doesn't tend to be in the middle. Is that because his heat map reflects when he's chasing the referee around, possibly?
Yeah, probably actually. Yeah, circle around the kind of midfield. But that's kind of really that's where we are with them. So I think it's very doable, and there is a simple strategy to nullifying them, and that's kind of my take on it.
I was going to say too that it might make the case for Yates as well, because for 2 reasons. One, to try to disrupt Bruno Fernandes and he get in his head, because we clearly, as Jan just alluded to, he's really easy to win that psychological warfare game with. But the other thing is that obviously his height and his ability in the box, because we're the 3rd best team in the league, Premier League at set pieces. They're the 3rd worst. So it may be something that we can take advantage of as well by putting Yates on the pitch, because clearly that's going to be something that he can provide to us that Dominguez wouldn't.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for the scout report, Ralph. We are going into the last 9 games of the season. There's the table on the screen. Forest sit 3rd, played 29. All the teams around us on the same games, apart from Newcastle in 6th, who've got the game in hand. They're on 47 points though. So even if they win that game in hand, there'll still be 4 points behind Forest. So going into 9 games, it's difficult to imagine us possibly being in a better position to secure Champions League football, So just quickly before we finish off, looking at the table, knowing what we know about this team, how we've performed, the teams that we've got to play, what do we need to do now to really solidify and secure and cement definitely Champions League football? How many wins do you think it's going to take for us to say, yeah, Champions League football is coming to the City ground? Raf, you got some fingers up. Is that 3 or 4?
4.
Raf's saying 4 wins and it's done. I think 4 wins and it's done. I think 3 wins might be enough. What about you, Dan? You're the stats man. Come on, kind of chucking this at these guys unprepared.
Yeah,
it just kind of dawned on me that we should kind of have this conversation.
Dream Tracker.
I did a massive long article on this that I put on a website. So I tried to look at every way possible that someone could catch us, and are they likely to catch us, these other teams? And the other teams below us there, obviously the ones closest to us, like Chelsea and Man City, yeah, they don't need to be amazing, but the other teams, for them to really catch up, they have to be in like title winning form for the rest of the season. It's not a case of us just falling off. The other teams also have to suddenly become much better than they've been all season to catch us. So yeah, I think this makes it nice and comfortable. That could just be the 4 games at home that we've got left, starting on Tuesday night. Every win now just becomes, it's not that every win's like a load of pressure, but every win completely cements where we are, and it'll just ease the nerves, for everybody going into it. And I say nerves, and I don't want to be in this position of thinking like, if we don't finish 5th, it's an absolute disaster, because it's not, is it? It's absolutely unbelievable that we're looking at this table after 29 games and we're in that spot that we are.
I know, but we still, I agree with everything you just said, but we still want to have that winning mentality that says, look, we're here on merit. We're not here by fluke. We're not here because everyone else has been rubbish. We're here because we've been really good all season. And for us to not get what we truly deserve out of it would just be heartbreaking. What teams are now out of it for you, Andrew? I think Fulham are out of it. I think Brighton are going to now fall away slightly. They've had a really good run where since we beat them 7-0, we know they put a multitude of wins together. I just can't see them sustaining that, especially, having played them in their backyard yesterday. I kind of feel Brighton might fall away. So I kind of feel like there's 5 places available now for 6 teams. Are you kind of with me on that, or do you have a different thought?
That's a fair assessment. I think over the course of the season, with the obvious exception of Liverpool and maybe to a degree Arsenal, maybe even to a degree us, a lot of those teams that you're looking at on that graphic have been very streaky. They've had these little pockets of form where they've done really well, and that's got them to the points where they are. And then they can't sustain it. It always falls off. You look at Chelsea's form at the moment. I know that they've won their last 2 of the last 3, but there's 3 losses in there as well. Villa, maybe. Something about Villa that I always think that Villa could pull something out, but then they have the Champions League distraction. So I think you're right. I think Newcastle, we've seen Newcastle in the form that they can, suddenly, throw up against us, especially. I think it's you're right. I think it's 5 out of those top 6, and I think I'd be more looking up than down. I think we've got more of a chance of getting second off Arsenal than we have of falling out the top 5.
There it is. There it is. That's what I want to hear.
It's the injuries. It's the squad depth and as falling off because we've just put so much energy and effort into the season so far with such a shallow squad of players that it catches up with us. Hopefully we can sustain it. If we can sustain it and we can keep a consistent top starting 11, that core squad, playing and starting as many games as we can, we should finish top 5.
More chance of catching Arsenal than dropping out of top 5. I love that. That's manna from heaven in my eyes, because I feel the same. I just feel like
Chelsea are plummeting. Those last 2 wins were based. I think it was Southampton and Leicester. I think it was. They've just had a day off cancelled because they played a game against their under-21 side and got beaten 3-0. So they had a day off cancelled and were dragged back into training. They are downwardly mobile, like definitely.
And you know what? Going through in the cup, and it's interesting as well because we actually haven't won a cup game since we beat Luton. How many teams have gone through on 3 consecutive penalty shootouts? Something to look up, and then we'll come back on. But the thing is, the W is the W. The win's the win. The way you get through is the way you get through. But it just, again, infuses and breathes confidence into the club. We're out of time, but Richard, I have to ask you, where are you on this? Because you've been very quiet there, letting everyone else have their say. How many wins, Ricardo? I mean, if we win on Tuesday, that puts us in such a strong position, right?
Yeah, it does for sure. Yeah, I'm going to say 4. I kind of agree with what Raf's saying. I think to feel really confident, I think 4 wins would be key there. I mean, you look at the schedules. I mean, I was just looking at the remaining schedules for all the individual teams, and there's certainly some easier matches for teams that are much closer to the bottom of the in that relegation zone that some of these other clubs that are competing with us have to play. But most of these other teams that are competing for that 5th spot, they're in the top 5, they're playing each other, so they're going to cannibalize one another, which is a good thing for us, because then we've got other teams that, as Dan's pointed out in previous discussions, and I haven't read the article, Dan, I'm sorry, I need to read that today, so I will get on that as a homework assignment before the end of today. We have a much more favorable schedule in terms of who we're playing. As far as, I mean, there's some informed teams, like Everton's been playing much better, right? We've still got Palace, we've got Aston Villa as well, as Dan pointed out, I think coming up next weekend. So it's going to be challenging, but it seems like our schedule sets up better for us than the rest of those folks who are competing as well for those spots.
Excellent. Okay, we went overtime deliberately because an hour's probably not quite enough for 2 matches to preview and review. So it is time to call it a podcast ending. Thank you very much to all of you guys for being on the panel. I want to quickly go around and get you some score predictions for Tuesday night, though. So, just a score prediction. Don't give me the whys and the wherefores. What are we saying, Raf?
1-0 Forest.
1-0 the Forest. Andrew?
I think 2-0 Forest.
2-0 Forest. Daniel San?
2-1 Forest.
2-1 Forest. Ricardo?
3-0 Forest.
You were going to say 3-0.
I'm with Raf, actually. I'm thinking 1-0. I just think that the goal, I'm going to give you a bit of a 1 wherefore. I just think the goals, we just kind of feel our way now with Taiwo coming in and just working out where that goal is going to come from. I think Anthony Elanga is going to be the key. I think he's going to score the goal. 1-0. Okay. Thank you very much to all of you guys for joining us on the pod. I'm not going to do time to go and get load of final thoughts because we'll be here for another 10 minutes. But you guys are legends, and all the panel will be back with us very soon. But I will say before we sign off that it is Mother's Day here in the UK. So I want to celebrate all the mums out there. You guys, you women are amazing. My mum is no longer with us, so of course it's a day that I reflect and think about her. But I also want to say to my beautiful wife, Evelina, thank you for being the amazing mother you are to Orlando and for being my amazing partner in crime. Without you, it just wouldn't be worth it. So I have to mark this moment and say that out loud so everyone can hear it. She is the real force behind everything we do. Okay, Richard over in Oklahoma, my co-host, my compadre. Thank you very much for being with us, Richard. Anything you want to say before we go?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, Talking Reds will be back again very soon. We'll be back to chat about the Man United game. I think we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll put out a tweet as usual, and so keep your eye out. So we're looking forward to Man United coming to Trent's side. I can't remember the last time we did the double over Man United in the season. We've already been to Old Trafford and got a famous win. There might be 1 or 2 injuries in the squad. We might be creaking in places, but there's more to this team than you might possibly imagine. An FA Cup semi-final, sitting 3rd in the Premier League, 9 games to go. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be fun.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on top.